threshold even now. The struggle is over, the struggle is over. The struggle is over, no more fighting. It's over, it's over, it's over, it's over, it's over. Hallelujah. Glory to the Lamb of God.
Good morning. Welcome to episode 2. I want to go ahead and get straight into today's topic because YouTube only gives me a limited time for these videos. I want to go ahead and get started by reading Genesis 32, verses 22 through 31. I'm reading out of NIV, so you want to pause the video, go ahead and get your place in the Bible. And it reads, That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, Let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, What is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. Jacob said, Please tell me your name. But he replied, Why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. The title of today's episode is Stop Trying to Hustle God, the Humbling of Man. You have to know a little bit about the history of Jacob. If you have time, go back, definitely go read the story of Jacob, and so you understand where Jacob was coming from. I'm sure we've all heard not episodes, but stories of him. But I just wanted to go a little bit about defining Jacob's name. Jacob's name means to be a heel grabber. He got that from when he was born, and when he came out, his brother came out first, but Jacob was seen grabbing his heel. Jacob and heel grabber in Hebrew means a supplanter or a deceiver. Jacob, up until this point, has spent his whole life deceiving and tricking people. He tricked his brother into selling his birthright, and he tricked his father into blessing him with that which was given to the firstborn, which was expected to be his brother's Esau. And up until this point, Jacob had used his sleight of tongue and his quick thinking and his charisma to, in essence, hustle his way into his own blessings. What does it mean to hustle? The Oxford College definition reads, to force someone to move hurriedly or unceremoniously in a specified direction. Obtained by forceful action or persuasion. Swindle or cheat. Fraud. Busy movement and activity. Energetic effort. To be a hustler is an aggressively enterprising person, a go-getter, an enterprising and often dishonest person. So we find that prior to this moment, Jacob had been the hustler's hustler. He could trick you and talk to you doing things and deceive you into doing things that you didn't even want to do. And that sounds a lot like man. That's why I believe God brought me here. There must be a humbling that we must go through. So here we find that Jacob is completely humbled. Here we meet a mature Jacob, and he got to the point to where he realizes that God was and is his source. We often, instead of treating God as God, we treat God as a genie or a one-night stand or a get-out-of-jail-free card. We like to think that we are so independent of God, of people, of relationships, that we can just figure things out on our own. And then in case we get in trouble, we can knock and say, God, now I'm ready for you. We treat God as we treat our relationship with women sometimes as men. We treat them as one-night stands, or we treat them as what we in college call a guarantee. What a guarantee was, for those of you not familiar with that, is that when a man uses a female as a guaranteed sex object. When everything else falls through for them, they call this guarantee with assurance in their mind and in their heart that this person would not fail them. And although God will never fail us, this is how we treat God. After we have deceived and we tricked our way and we've done all these things within our own thought, within our own mind, without consulting or talking to God or having a relationship with God, then after those things fall through, then we say, God, can you help me? But that's not how it works. God is not a genie. God desires a relationship with man. But we don't want relationship. We want instant results. We want a microwave relationship with God to where as soon as you're ready for it, you can throw it in the microwave, put it on 2 minutes, boom, you have a ready-made meal. We don't have a desire to put work into our relationship with God. We don't want a relationship, but we want a relationship with people. We want to do things our way. We treat our relationship with God just like we treat our relationship with people. We feel that these relationships that we have are here specifically to serve us. We want God, the creator, to serve us, the creation. That God is here to work for us. That God, we looked through God's resume, said he was good to hire, and we hired him. But God created us. And he created us in his own image. And by nature, humans are relational beings. We seek relationship with each other. One way or another, we may not always want an intimate relationship, but we want a relationship with others. Eventually, we work our way up to want an intimate relationship. So if Genesis tells us that God made man in his own image, he said, let us make man in our own image. That means that, if we are relational beings, that means that God himself is a relational being. So if we desire a relationship, God desires a relationship with us, but not just any relationship, an intimate relationship with us. That's what God desires. But we treat God as this one-night stand, this guarantee that if things don't work out, God is my fall-through plan. But God says, if you want the fullness of me, if you want to understand what I have to offer you, if you want this joy and this peace and this grace and this mercy, you must enter into a relationship with me, but not just a relationship, but an intimate relationship. And to do that, you must come in a humbled form or fashion. Here we find Jacob is humbled. Jacob gets to the point to where he's humbled. He realized that no matter how much he tricks and how fast he talks and how charismatic he is, he must come to God because God is the source. He must ask God, I will not let you go until you bless me. He is saying that, God, I want to enter into a relationship with you. I am not going to let you go, God. I want to hold on to you until you bless me. I will not let go until you bless me. Jacob is saying that in layman's terms that I'm not going to move away from your side. Bless me, O Lord. But we don't want that. We don't want that at all. We want an instantaneous microwave relationship with God. He is there in the refrigerator. We pull him out and put him in the microwave. But God is a relational being, like we are a relational man. And then we wonder where our children get this idea that things should be instantaneous, that things should be moved on their terms. And we say, well, it's mass media that taught them that. But they watch us. We are the reason why. It is not mass media. It's not the videos. It's not any of these things that you want to put out there. It's not the books. It's that they're watching us and seeing how we treat our relationship with our God and say that this is how our relationship with God works. I don't need God. God needs me. I don't need God until God, I don't want you to interfere until I call you. That's how we treat our relationship with God. So that's how our children. And we have the nerve to talk about a generation, and the generation is coming up is not, we want to criticize them. We should be criticizing ourselves. They didn't learn it from themselves. They learned it from us. We have treated this relationship with God as Something that we can rub on a bottle like he's a genie, and he comes out and he says, what are your 3 wishes? And he must answer. But God is demanding and saying that I want a relationship with you. If you do not want to give me a relationship, I will find it elsewhere. What are you saying? What do you mean? A relationship with God, he desires for you to worship him. When you worship, you enter into a relationship. When you humble yourself to say that, God, you are God. And that you will always be God. Whether you bless me or not, you are still God. And I am humbling myself and I'm lying prostrate saying that you are God. And God all by yourself. When we get to that point and worship him in that, then will the blessings actually flow. That's what Jacob realized. That all these things that he's been doing on his own, trying to figure things out on his own, was not living in the fullness of God. Was not living in the fullness of God. He realized that he wasn't asking for financial prosperity. He already had that, yet he still was not satisfied with this because it wasn't his life was not blessed, and the blessing did not come from God. How many times have you seen people with millions and millions of dollars and then they kill themselves because the blessing was not about financial prosperity? They wanted joy and peace inside, and that's what God is offering you. Us and our simple minds have convinced ourselves that the abundant life that God or Jesus Christ has promised us has something to do with prosperity or financial prosperity, but it has nothing to do with that. God is promising abundant life in him, in a relationship with him. You want the fullness in your life? Get the fullness of God. Worship God. Humble yourself enough to say that you are God and I want a relationship with you. I realize that I've done all this on my own, but I want to leave that behind and I want to enter into marriage with you, God. I want to love on you, God. I want to worship you. I want to serve you. And then you will see the fullness that God has to offer. Then we can set this example that is demanded of us to this youth. Then we can no longer say that they are getting from our example. Because our example is that we are in a full relationship with God. It is often said that you can tell how a man will treat a woman by how he treats his mother. Well, I offer this. You can tell how a man treats the relationships in his life by how he treats the relationship with his God. If his relationship with God is 150 ratio, if God is giving his all and he's giving half, that's how it's going to be with the rest of relationships in his life. So what does your relationship with God say about you? Does it say that you are giving wholeheartedly to your relationship with God? Or does it say that you're half-heartedly, barely looking for a relationship with God? If God put a resume out on you for how your relationships work, how your relationship work with you, if somebody had to call God for a reference for how you are in relationships, what would it say? Beloved, God wants a relationship with us. I will plan on ending every last one of my episodes. First, I want to say that humble yourself and worship God as Jacob did. And realize that God doesn't have to bless you. At any moment, he could take you away. He said, and the verse says that he named this place Peniel because I had saw God face to face, yet I survived. At that point, he humbled himself to realize that everything that he had came through God, and that he was not going to leave God's side until God blessed him. Don't let your independence rob you from your dependency on God. It is a blessing to you. God bless. Be safe. Stay in prayer and in worship.